We're on section 5.3. What structures do plants and animals have that are similar in function? And so we want to circle the word function because that means that they're doing the same type of job. They're not going to be built exactly the same way, but they're going to do the same type of purpose. For example, if we look at the Sternger process, transport, which means to move through the body. We know that plants have a special way to move water, xylem up, moving water up the xylem, and phloem down, moving food down the phloem. Animals also need to transport things through their body, but what we're going to see is that they have a very different way of performing the same function. So in section 5.3, we're looking at animals. So I'll give you a second to copy down a little bit about animals. Remember, animals are multicellular organisms, just like plants, meaning they're made of many cells. They usually have organs which work together to make organ systems. So in plants, you do have many cells, and they do start to take on organs. For example, like leaves and roots and stems, those are the organs of the plant. But in animals, we start to see that the organs work together to form organ systems. For example, we'll look at how the heart and the lungs work together to form the cardiorespiratory system. We'll look at how the lungs and the digestive system work together. These systems are interdependent, meaning they depend on each other in order to maintain homeostasis. And so these organs are adaptations. They're genetic traits that help the organisms survive and experience reproductive success, meaning your organs, things like your brain, your kidneys, your liver, they help you better survive so that you can better reproduce. We're going to be talking in this first section about nutrition, respiration, transport, and excretion. First, we're going to talk about how animals get nutrition. For nutrition, adaptations help animals consume food. Remember, animals are consumers. Consume also means eat. So they can't make their own food. They have to eat or consume food. Animals do usually have mouth parts, like your mouth and teeth, to help them obtain food. Some animals have teeth, while others swallow their food whole and perform digestion in the stomach or the small intestine. Think, for example, of a snake and how it consumes its prey whole and then it gets digested inside of the animal. Digested food must be prepared for transport, so it's absorbed into the bloodstream in an organ called the intestine. Now, one really important thing that we want to know about the intestine is that it has what we call a large surface area. If you look at the intestine, you can see that it's covered in blood veins and vessels, but we need to get the food into those blood veins and vessels. And so you can see that the intestine, first of all, your intestine is about 12 feet long, and then it's folded back and forth on itself so that there's lots of surface area so that your digested food can get absorbed into your bloodstream. So when we look at animals and how they get their nutrition, it's all about getting the food, getting it digested, and getting it into your bloodstream. Once we have digested food, some of that food is going to be used for respiration. Digested food may be used for energy, and that's during cellular respiration. But in order for cellular respiration to happen, we have to have oxygen. So we have what are called respiratory systems, which help us collect oxygen. Some animals use simple diffusion. Now let's review what we mean by simple diffusion. for larger animals, they need organs to help them obtain means get, so they need to get oxygen and get rid of, or we know a word for that, excrete carbon dioxide. So that means that coming into the bloodstream is going to be oxygen, going out of the bloodstream is going to be carbon dioxide. Aquatic organisms use gills, which have a large surface area to remove oxygen from the water. So when we think of gills, a lot of times we think of fish, but salamanders, which are amphibians, actually have gills because they spend part of their life in the water. Land organisms have lungs, which contain alveoli sacs. And so we do need to know that alveoli sacs are covered in blood vessels to help get oxygen passively into the bloodstream. So even though it takes a little bit of energy to take a breath in, once the oxygen is here in your lungs, it spreads out into the bloodstream all on its own. So the diffusion of oxygen is passive. But we do see that in order to get it through the whole body, animals need special structures. And again, it's all about this idea of surface area. So let's put a big star by that, because the bigger the surface area, the faster we can do the work. So we talked about nutrition, how animals get food. Then we talked about how, well, we've digested our food, we want to use it for energy, we need oxygen to perform respiration. And so this is where we talked about respiration. Next, we're going to talk about transport. How do we actually transport the blood through the body? So to deliver nutrients and oxygen to the cells, most animals have a muscle called a heart to help with transport. The heart is a muscle that pumps to force the blood to transport through the body. So here's a picture of the heart, and as the heart contracts, it's a muscle, as it contracts, it pushes the blood up to the lungs or out to the head and the rest of the body. Animals with lungs have chambered or divided hearts to separate oxygenated and deoxygenated blood for efficient delivery. So if the animal has lungs, its heart has different rooms or chambers to separate the blood. When being pumped, some organisms like insects have what are called open circulatory systems. Let's go ahead and underline that. Open circulatory system is where the blood moves around the body freely, meaning we do not have veins and arteries. And I don't mean we like humans. I mean the animals like insects. This is why when you stomp on a cockroach, it just kind of oozes out, because it doesn't have any veins or arteries. Other organisms, including worms, amphibians, and mammals, have blood vessels which contain the blood until it's delivered to the cells. So when you look in your arm and you see the veins and arteries, those are the vessels, and it means that you have a closed circulatory system. And so the last one that we'll talk about today is excretion. As blood circulates or transports, it picks up waste which must be removed through excretion. Animals have unique adaptations that filter waste out of the blood. The urine waste is usually dissolved in water to balance the pH and salt content. So as the blood is circulating through your body, it picks up all of this waste. And we need to, that waste can be toxic. So we dissolve the waste in water. So we want to put a little star by that. Waste is usually dissolved in water. Now when we mean waste from the cells. There's actually 3 types of waste in animal bodies. There's gas waste like carbon dioxide. There's solid waste like feces, that's the leftover parts of your food. And then there's urine waste, which is your pee or urine. And that is all the waste from your cells. As the blood circulates, it gets taken to a kidney. Now this is for humans. Mammals and amphibians have kidneys that can balance water so they can live on land. Now, earthworms have a much smaller structure called a nephridia, and insects are unique because their structure, and you do need to know the name of this structure, their structure doesn't use water, meaning they can really survive well in dry environments like the desert because they don't dissolve their waste in water. And so this is really where we stop. We've talked about nutrition, how animals get and digest food, respiration, how animals get oxygen and get rid of carbon dioxide to help with cellular respiration, transport, how things are moved through the animal body, and excretion,